to Suzanne Rolfe.
Right, so I have come to talk to you about the festival of Krampus. Right, so if you don't know, I'm just going to give you a little overview of what Krampus is. So, me and my friend Melita, who's here tonight, every December, the first week of December, we go out to the Krampus festival, which takes place in the Alpine region. So that's Eastern Austria, Lower Germany. We haven't been to Northern Italy yet, but Krampus also takes place there. So, what is Krampus, or who is Krampus? So, Krampus is a devilish figure who comes out, and he's a mythological, and if you like, he's the dark side of St. Nicholas. So, St. Nicholas is the saint of good children, and I'm going to talk a bit about St. Nicholas later on. But anyway, so Krampus is this dark, devilish figure. And what happens in the first week of December is that the Austrian men, or the Alpine men of the region, they dress up in devilish figures and they run through the villages and the towns, frightening everybody. So a group of Krampus is called a pass. And we, over the last 6-7 years, we've travelled all around Austria, and we've met different passes, and they all have their own different personalities. But I'm just going to go through the anatomy of a Krampus, because it's really, really important point. So, on your right, a more traditional Krampus, and as you can see, they've got wooden masks, and they have got coats of sheep fur, and in their hands they've got a switch or a birch, and that's going to become very important later on because it gets a bit whippy. And they also have bells, so as they run through the villages and they run through the towns, you can hear the Krampus coming. So these are very traditional old Krampus. And on your left is a much more modern day Krampus, same outfit, but some modern Krampus, or some of the passes, have latex masks which are a bit more scary. So that's your overview of the Krampus festival. I'm just going to play a little bit of film. Sadly, you can't smell the film. It's really smelly because they all wear sheep things. But I'll just play this. Oh, right, okay. Right, so you can see the whipping. Okay. So I'll just stop it there. So you might wonder, why on earth do they have Krampus? So Krampus really is a moral. Sorry, I've gone forward. Yeah. So Krampus really is about morality, and as I've mentioned before about St. Nicholas, he is the saint of good children. Now, Krampus dates back around to the 14th century. A lot of people think Krampus is pagan, but it's not. Krampus is Catholic because he's the other side of St. Nicholas. So you have the Krampus run, which we've just seen, but also they have miracle plays that involve St. Nicholas. And two of the plays, I'm just going to outline them very, very quickly. One is where St. Nicholas rescues 3 educated boys who once entered an inn, but the innkeeper was a cannibal, and the innkeeper chopped them up and put them in the stew. And St. Nicholas came and tricked the innkeeper to explaining what he had done, and he reprimanded the innkeeper and rescued the boys took them out of the cauldron and put them back together again. Now, he liked them because they were good little boys. There's also another tale where he rescued 3 little girls who were part of a poor family, and the father was going to have to send them off into prostitution. But St. Nicholas liked them because they were good little girls, and he crept into their room at night and put pennies in their shoes and rescued them from a life of poverty. So these are very old ancient plays around St. Nicholas. So St. Nicholas is the patron of good girls and educated boys. But how do we decide whether a child is naughty or good? Now, this is a tradition that still takes place in Austria, where interrogation catechism takes place from the Catholic festival. So the elder of the village will dress up as St. Nicholas. He'll have his angels behind him and his Krampus. And what they do a house visit around people's houses with children. And the children have to say their prayers or say their psalms. And their parents decide whether they've been good or not. Now, if the child has been good, they get presents. So that really relates to these, the idea of Christmas, modern day Christmas, which St. Nicholas has kind of been interpreted to these days. Or if they've been bad and they don't say their prayers properly, or they don't say their psalms, then the Krampus takes them away and takes them and punishes them. So we found evidence last year of this happening. Down in the bottom right is we went to Kitzbühel, and on the table were invitations for the Krampus, for St. Nicholas and the Krampus to go and do a house visit. So I don't think the Krampus really hurts the kids, but let's hope not anyway. Anyway, right. So I'm just going to change the topic a little bit now. So the modern day Krampus, which I showed earlier on with the latex mask, that's kind of that imagery is quite new. The Krampus and the miracle plays have been in existence for centuries. And these are some of the older masks. So on your right is a Purton mask, and I'm going to talk about the Purton a bit later on. But the 3 masks here are very old wooden masks, and there's a death mask as well. So these were part of the miracle plays. And we did manage to see, they're more hellfire shows these days, and we did see one in Hallstatt, where the Krampus is actually part of a theatre. St. Nicholas comes out, the figure of St. Nicholas comes out, he starts, we couldn't understand because it's Austrian German, but suddenly all these Krampuses come out from under the stage, over the roofs, from behind you. It's fucking scary, it's absolutely fucking terrifying, and it's dark, and you're there just, suddenly it's a Krampus whipping you. And so there are the plays as well, but these types of miracle shows, hellfire shows, have been going on for a long time. So that's the old masks. The newer masks really came about in the 1960s by an artist called Sepp Lang. And he was an unemployed artist, and he decided to really make a feature of Krampus masks. And arguably, he looked at other cultures in the world, mostly around Africa. It's up for debate, but he started bringing in colour into the masks. He added the hair, he added the multiple horns, and from then on the masks have changed. And these are masks, a picture that I took of last year. So even though you do still see a lot of latex masks, I would say that actually the wooden masks are becoming much more popular again. And each Krampus, his furs and his masks and his horns are kind of almost sacred to him. And each passes, as you go out each year, you kind of recognise you recognise their look. And from an English perspective, it might all look at the same at first, but as you go around Austria, you see that there are differences. So these are more wooden masts, and these are from the Purton, which I'm going to talk a bit about later on. Right, sorry, before we get to Krampus is very much in the Austrian psyche. It has been a long time. And these are pictures from correspondence cards. So in the 18th century, when the postal system came into existence, everyone started corresponding by the post. But Krampus correspondence cards became really popular, and they existed until the First World War. And they're absolutely beautiful. I've got quite a collection of them. Sometimes when you go around the Austrian markets, you might come across them. They're worth quite a bit of money now. But as you can see, each postcard on the side, it's generally the girls that are good and the boys that are naughty. And it's always the boy in the klaxon. So the basket that the Krampus wear are the klaxons. And there's a sack there. But as you may notice in the middle, it all starts to get BDSM. So it gets really, really bit kinky. And Gruß from Krampus means greetings from Krampus. And you will notice, certainly with the Krampus runs, that a lot of whipping starts going on, like the Krampus all come down, they all start whipping, they find their girlfriends or boyfriends and start whipping them. If you've been really naughty, that you can stick your bum out and they'll whip you. And it all gets a bit excitable. Melita is always, she's down the front here, I go with, she's beaten black and blue. She's on the aeroplane, going back, absolute agony. Okay, so Krampus has had a bit of a rough time over the years. Not everyone's always liked Krampus. Hitler didn't like Krampus. He tried to ban it. Mostly because he had sort of weird, really awful ideas, and it was a Catholic festival, so he tried to get rid of it. Didn't work. And then Martin Luther was a Protestant, so he didn't like it either, and he tried to replace Krampus with Christ's kind, which was kind of having angels, women dressed up in angel outfits coming down the road. But that's a bit boring, so I'm glad that we've gone back to Krampus, really. So, yeah. So we are going away in 10 days' time. Very excited. We're going back. So as you go around Austria, there's different types of, different interpretations of Krampus. And these guys are in Berchtesgaden, and they're Krampel. So these are more pagan than Catholic, even though they've still got a kind of Christian element to them. But last time we went, we could only go for a couple of hours, and actually it's a whole ritual. They meet up a mountain, and they come down into the town, and we're going to go and photograph them again. So. And do the full thing. And I kind of like it, so it's a bit of a fuck you to Hitler as well, because of course his eagle's nest was there, and I'm glad that they've managed to get that tradition back. So another issue, modern day issue that Krampus has is health and safety. Some festivals that we've been to, or some of the Krampus runs we've had, the Krampus aren't allowed to drink anymore because they've got too leery. And but it's kind of I think they're a bit better when they're drunk, really. And and people make silly complaints. I mean, this one person being hit in the face with a birch. Kind of what happens, you know. It's what you meant to do, take the birch away. I don't know. And an 11-year-old child being left with a bloody cut on their thigh. Well, kind of, yeah, keep your kid out of the way. So, yeah, we have been to child-friendly Krampuses. It's a bit boring. They go and shake their hands, and it's a bit like whatever. So, yeah. So we like the raucous ones. Apparently, Krampus are allowed to drink in Germany, so we might have to go back there. Yeah. All right, so I'm just going to talk a bit about the Pertel or the Perten. So I'm going to, it's a once in a lifetime, if you ever can, go and see these guys. So Perter, so they're not Krampus, they are a total different entity, but they're still Austrian. So this ritual takes place in the Tyrol in eastern Austria. And give you an overview of Perter. She's a double aspect goddess. She's a goddess of the sun and the moon, the winter and the summer, but she's more kind of a bit evil than good, really. If you're a naughty housewife, she'll come and cut your stomach open and eat your guts. So it's about that social control and cleaning your house properly. These guys are her worshippers, the Perten. You can only be a man, you can't be a woman. But there's about 20, again they're called Pass, so it's a group of Pertel passes. And there's about 20 in and around Rattenberg. And what they do in the first week of December is meet and beat the bounds of the village. And it's absolutely incredible. We've stayed there for a few days. And you'll go shopping down Spa, and you'll come out, and these guys are there beating the bounds of the village. It's absolutely brilliant. But it's passed from father to son, the tradition. What they've got there is radiator drums, and the drumming is absolutely incredible. And on the 6th of December, they all meet in Rattenberg, all 20 passes, and the sound is just amazing. But anyway, one of the passes is called Seder Pass, and the hex, the passes are all led by a hex who dances and leads them. And one of the passes, the hex is called Marco, and that's his son. And I've just got a little bit of video of Marco teaching his son how to lead the pass. So it's really powerful, and Marco also makes the masks of the Pertel as well. So that's the Perten beating the bounds of a village. I've just got another bit of Rattenberg as well. Okay, so the Hex, who was the first person coming on, was called Howard. I'm going to tell you a bit about Howard in a moment. Okay, so it's a bit of a whip around Austria. If you would like to experience Krampus, and you don't want to go to Austria, then Whitby do a Krampus festival there. And I've got to say, it's really fantastic what they do. It hasn't quite got the whipping thing going on, I've got to say, but it has got the interrogation catechism side of Krampus. As you can see, this Krampus making friends with the child there. And they do an amazing outfits. Melita did decide to get the whipping thing going when we were up there. That's her in the top corner, and that's the Krampus whipping her away. She's going, whip me, this poor like whipping. And later on, when the Krampus took his mask off, it was some poor old man that looked really shocked. And his wife was giving her daggers as well. So yeah, you have to be a little bit careful what you do. But it is a really fantastic few days, and I highly recommend it. So yeah. Oops, sorry. So have I been good? Ooh. So that's Howard the Hex. He chatted me up, and I thought he was quite a handsome young man underneath, really, but I didn't think bringing home the goat skin would be particularly brilliant, so I refused. And I got chatted up by St. Nicholas as well. Couldn't believe it last year. He was in my hotel, and he was trying to, it's all hello, and I couldn't quite believe it, because we're at a Krampus in Bad Goisen, which has about 10,000 Krampuses, or Krampus, and he came and found me in the crowd and said, "You're that lady in Zimmer Zen," which we were in 10. I went, yeah. And I locked my door that night. I didn't really fancy St. Nicholas. So I've been really good this year. The question is, warst du dieses Jahr gut? Have you been good this year? No. And I hope the Krampus meets Della's ex-husband as well. So, thank you. That's a little bit of whip around Krampus.
Excellent. Thank you very much. No, stay there.